We're Arctic Monkeys. This is Don't Believe the Hype.
That rock and roll, eh? Ladies! That sound means it's the end of the round. Time for the bonus question.
Cheers, dude.
That man just yawned. We're gonna call it
Don't Believe the Hype.
Hello and welcome to Don't Believe the Hype, the only podcast in the world, yeah, that's right, I said the world, that promises to take a deep dive into the discography of Arctic Monkeys with me, Nick Lee, and him, Dan Holt. Dan, how are you doing, mate?
I am very well. How are you?
Yeah, it's a good week, isn't it? Because as we're recording this, all the stuff is kind of amping up for the release of The Car, and there's speculation of another single this week. We've got Live on Jimmy Fallon to come this week.
Yes.
So it's like, even though we're kind of like back to basics with the episodes we're doing at the moment, there is new stuff. Cute new stuff keeps on popping up, mate.
Oh, already. We record this a little bit in advance, but not a lot in advance. So we are pretty much, at the same time as this will be released. But currently, we've got a potential new song dropping, which is very exciting. We've got a Jimmy Kimmel performance to go through.
Is it Kimmel or is it Fallon? I don't know.
It's Fallon.
It's one of the Jimmys.
It's Jimmy Fallon's my favourite. Yeah, I'm getting my Jimmys. I was getting my Jimmys mixed up, but
let's just be glad it's James.
There's a third Jimmy.
It's Jimmy Corden. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's another Jimmy that we won't mention, but I get my. But no, it's all very exciting. We've got for the UK listeners specifically, we've got tour dates being released this week as well. It's all happening. It's all here. And pre-ordering clothing items. It's all part of the time, which I've never done before. But I think the car branding is I like it. I like the branding of it. But yes,
you're nothing if not great. A brand bitch, are you?
No. I've got no integrity. I know you're gonna. I know that's going to lead you.
I'm saying nothing, mate.
I was listening last week. I'm trying to lead you now. I'm trying to get you there now.
It's started already. Get these
rain traps.
Ooh.
No. Go on.
So what are we going to be covering tonight then, pal? What's the plan?
Yeah, so we are going to be discussing Beneath the Boardwalk, which is obviously a very, very, very early set of demos. But we're not going to be, we don't want to tread on any of the toes of our future episodes. So we're not going to be discussing any of the songs that were released on an album or as a single or even as a B-side, because we are going to be covering all B-sides of each era as well. So everyone knows we're going to cover every single Arctic Monkeys song, no stone left unturned. And yeah, so we're just going to be doing the tracks that never made it to any kind of re-recording or general release, basically. And we will go through what they are in a moment.
It was really tricky for us to, when we started planning the shows out, that was the point where we had to actually do some thinking, because the idea kind of came up with itself, didn't it? And it was just like, oh, you kind of know which way it's going to flow. And then we got to the stage where we're like, oh, what do we do with these songs? This could be awkward. But we couldn't not cover them, because there's some very, very weird stuff on Beneath the Boardwalk, I think.
Yeah, and interesting, as we'll find out, but just interesting things to discuss about these songs that kind of lay a foundation for what was to come for the next 20 years. But yeah, no, very interesting discussion. And yeah, so I think initially we'll start with some information about Beneath the Boardwalk. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, and if anything, it gives me a chance to play one of my new jingles for the first time. Which
very excited about these jingles.
Oh, mate, it has been my life for the past few days. Just thinking of lyrics that could fit a jingle. It's getting to the stage where we're kind of building jingles around the lyrics rather than the other way around, which is how it should be. But
yeah,
it'll be fine.
No, I think they all work very well. And I was very particular. We won't use it this week, but there's one that I'm very particularly proud of, and you know what that is. But no, so come on. Keep me and the audience in anticipation. What's the jingle for before I discuss the information of Beneath the Boardwalk?
Let's do it. Here it comes into your ears right now, listeners.
The information action ratio is the place to go.
is excellent. Exactly.
I'm done.
I wanted to transition. I wanted to transition straight into it, but I couldn't not reference it. That was lovely. But yeah, the soothing tones of Alex Turner. Yeah. So, without further ado, the Beneath the Boardwalk is an 18-track demo recorded in 2004 at Two Fly Studios in Sheffield, in the UK, obviously. The band first handed out the unnamed demo at bar/nightclub The Boardwalk post-gig, leading the file-sharing fans to dub this Beneath the Boardwalk. This led many fans to believe the demo was an early album, although the early demos were released under this title officially. In a 2005 interview with Prefix magazine, Matt Helders said, We used to record demos and then just burn them onto CDs and give them away at gigs. Obviously, there weren't many demos available, so people used to share them on the internet, which was a good way for everyone to hear it. So we used to share, not us personally, we don't even know how to do it, but fans did. There's a guy who has come along to film us, two guys actually. One of them is the main guy who put the songs to the internet. So the fans just used to send them to each other, which didn't bother us because we never made those demos to make money or anything. We were giving them away for free anyway. That was a better way for people to hear them, and it made the gigs better because people knew the words and came and sang along. We can't complain about it. The demo features, and I'll go in full, even though we're not covering them all, A Certain Romance, Bigger Boys and Stolen Sweethearts, Choo Choo, Cigarette Smoke, Dancing Shoes, Fake Tales of San Francisco, Knock a Door Run, Mardy Bum, On the Run from the MI5, Riot Van, Scummy, Still Take You Home, Waving Bye to the Train or the Bus, Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor, Sticking to the Floor, Space Invaders, Curtains Closed, and Ravey, Ravey, Ravey Club Live. Many of the tracks were later re-recorded into debut album, whatever people say, and That's What I'm Not, or featuring on later EPs and as B-sides. The demo was produced by Alan, I think it's either Smith or Smythe. I'm going to go with, I heard Alex use the word Smythe at Glastonbury 2013, so I'm going to say Alan Smythe produced the track. And that happened because they're the people that were managing Arctic Monkeys at the time, or their manager, who was probably just some bloke from around Sheffield, let's be honest. He knew Alan Smythe and got him to record 5 demo sessions in between July 2003 and November 2004. But it wasn't until summer 2004 the material started spreading when the legendary Mark the Sheriff Bull started his fan site. He collected and ripped the CDR demos and put them on his website. The Sheriff must have ripped those from demos he obtained during the shows, or maybe he got them through the band themselves since they befriended at some point. Most people agree that to this day, nobody has ever found any irrefutably legit copy of any of those original demos. If they ever existed, it must have been very, very limited. And there you go. That's a little bit of information there for Beneath the Boardwalk. I hope it was satisfactory.
When I go to, I'm glad you mentioned a bit about not being sure like how many exist or if there's genuine copies out there, because every time I go into a charity shop or a thrift store for our transatlantic chums, that's the first thing I do.
Mm-hmm.
I head to the music section and try and find a copy of either Beneath the Boardwalk or 5 Minutes with Arctic Monkeys. That is the holy grail, to just find one of those. But this came at a time, they're probably the first band to genuinely make it big just based on posting songs online. Everyone started trying it after this, but they didn't even do it themselves and kind of achieve fame that way.
No. The press here kind of dubbed them as a band that they were kind of these savvy musical entrepreneurs that did this, and they weren't, but they were just some lads, and other people kind of just naturally shared it. Like it was basically a word of mouth. I always think of it as it's the exact same as a word of mouth band, but at the beginning of the internet. When it was just file sharing and things like that, so the word of mouth just became file sharing essentially as well. So that's all it was. It was just they were kind of the first ones there, I guess. But yeah, and I will just say as well that I learned, to mention another band, I learned what a thrift store was from a band called The Killers, and that's all I'll say. Anyway, fans will know why. I might have Googled thrift store, but yeah. Do you have, before we jump into the tracks? Do you have? I can't remember. Do you have a kind of one of your crazy jingles for the reviews?
I do indeed.
There are no reviews. I scoured the internet for reviews of this, and I'm ashamed to say I spent a good 30 seconds reading a review for something called Under the Boardwalk, a Monopoly movie. I read that for 30 seconds before I realised I wasn't reading a review of Beneath the Boardwalk, and was in fact reading this before I realised. There's not even a review. archived on NME's site, who, let's be honest, are slightly obsessed. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't want to. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but
Should be obsessed with Arctic Monkeys. Well weird, wasn't it?
Crazy. Yeah. So there's no review. I couldn't find a review anywhere. So I guess we're the review. We're going to be the review.
A long overdue review. Hopefully, the band will go somewhere off the back of our review. That'd be the dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we really need some commercial success at this point. I think I think we're the key to unlocking the states. I think stateside. But yeah, so the tracks that we're going to be doing, because I thought I mentioned them all, but we're going to be doing Choo Choo, Knockador Run, On the Run from the MI5, Waving Bye to the Train or the Bus, Space Invaders, Curtains Closed, and Ravey Ravey Club, which of course is just a little live soundbite of that. But yeah, there's still something to discuss in there, certainly. So yeah, I'm happy to start with Choo Choo.
I said my baby wants to drive the train. Well, all aboard, yeah. And don't forget to mind the gap. Well, don't you let her. Well, don't you know she's sick and tired of being in the background, a passenger. Let her drive the train. Oh, choo choo. Why don't you let her drive the train? No. Choo choo. Why don't you let her drive the train?
Yeah. Nick, what do you have your initial kind of any thoughts on Choo Choo?
This along with another one which we'll get onto shortly, even up until Humbug was released, in my infinite music hipster wankiness, I was maintaining that these were my favourite Arctic Monkeys songs. I was like, "Oh, Brian Storm, nah. It's all about, you want to get the demos, mate. It's all about the demos. It's all about Choo Choo, mate. Absolute tune. Choo Choo in particular was a massive favourite. I think that may have been. I think that may have been the first Arctic Monkey song that was actually played to me from this demo album as well. So it kind of holds a very special place in my heart.
No.
That kind of funky riff that became their trademark is very evident straight from the start.
Yeah, I think it might have been one of the first of this demo set, because I'll be honest, I didn't hear this as listen to last week's show if you want to find out how I stumbled onto Arctic Monkeys' leaked first album. So I hadn't heard this, but when I went back, I think Choo Choo might have been the first one that I heard. And I can only assume that it came from, I can only imagine that they played a riff and they thought it sounded like a train. And then they sat down and sort of what I've gathered from their humor over the years was, okay, let's make the lyrics ironically funny and a bit shit about a train. But let's also, I still think it's very bluesy, this track. It's got a very bluesy rhythm to it, which actually makes sense in the kind of Choo Choo fits that, like that. There's something about the blues and the train. Like that kind of, it reminds me of I woke up this morning, like just a kind of same, like that kind of riff repeated and scales it. I think it's very cool. It's very slick. The chorus, though, actually, and this is something that I'd forgot about until I re-listened to it. A lot of these tracks, actually, but the influence, I think, of the White Stripes, which, because you always think of the Strokes, obviously, and stuff like that, but the guitar chorus on this sounded very White Stripesy to me. Yeah. And you'll know you're way more of a huge White Stripes fan than I was, so I'm sure that hopefully you heard that as well.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, there's that famous gig. Was it at the Grapes? I think it's the first gig at the Grapes, and recordings of it do exist now. But what the White Stripes was one of the covers that they performed, and then again on the Tranquility Base tour, every city they went to in America, they tended to play a cover from that city. So they did the Strokes in New York, and the White Stripes was who they did in Detroit. So I think that influence has always been there. They
did, didn't they? I forgot about that. That's cool, isn't it, to do that? Just another cool thing that they do. But yeah. No, if you listen, again, if anybody missed it, if you go back and listen to our introductory episode last week, in the opening, there is a kind of, I think I run down a set list of that the bands they played at the Grapes, and yeah, the White Stripes was one of them. I think they did a couple actually, if I remember back. But it does remind me a lot, the guitar on this, of that, you know, the, I don't want to say it because it makes it sound like I'm having a dig, but the iPod advert, White Stripes of that time. Yeah, we're old enough to remember. Anyone younger will be like, what's an iPod? But yeah, they just remind me of that kind of thing. And I think as well, influenced by the American singing, I think Alex slightly has his accent in there coming through, but he is still singing in an American style in this one, I think, which I think is funny and ironic considering what happened years later in terms of that. But I think, yeah, and for me, just to mention the drums in this as well, because I think it's something that will come up frequently, particularly in these early years, is the fact that these guys had only been playing their instruments for about 2 years at this point, from nothing to that. And some of the drums in the breakdown, and this whole breakdown in this song, they're just really cool, rocky, bluesy. Yeah, just held us at his best. Because a lot of the time it's hip hoppy, isn't it? But I don't know, I just got a really cool bluesy vibe from this.
Yeah, I'd completely go along with that. It's and yeah, like you said as well, that's the first evidence of Held as just being an all round, well, an agile beast, I think would be the best way to put it.
yeah, he should use that at some point.
Yeah, you're welcome, Matt.
Yeah, but no, I think there's, you know, we're not going to be getting into too in depth with these songs. Obviously, we're just going to be discussing each one and giving us our own overview, because, you know, I think for some of them more than others, there's stuff to talk about. This is one of them where I just say it's a cool song. It's funny. I think you can see the sense of humor coming through. There's elements of what were to come, particularly like with Andy's bass. And I just think, yeah, it was just one. I can just imagine this being a song that when you're learning your instruments, maybe if one of the first tracks you'd write, if you're talented, obviously, because, you know, you still got to be talented to write a song as good as this that's still a bit shit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But just a song you might write in the practice studio and, you know, would be a cool song to play. Maybe after a few beers or a few spliffs or something. You know, I think it's just, yeah, it's just how I see it, really.
You've kind of got these factions of Arctic Monkeys fans, where you've got people like us who are kind of there from the start, like from the demos and everything, have carried on with the band, kind of followed them all the way through. And then you've kind of got the crowd that came on board after AM. A lot of it will be the American and South American crowd, I think. I think that was the album that properly launched. We love you, really.
We love you if you stayed on after that. Yeah. You don't get to jump on. You don't get to jump on for AM and then moan when they do Tranquility Base. Is all I'm saying. You know.
Yeah, that's
Put down the handle and get off the bandwagon. Is all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
If you're taking exception to any of our comments, then do get in touch. We are arcticmonkeyspodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Arctic Podcast. And I believe we are also Arctic Podcast on the gram, aren't we? Would that be correct? The gram, as the kids call it.
Yes. I didn't even know what you meant then. I was like, what?
Yep.
Thought you were ringing a dealer or something. I don't know what was going on. Yes, we are Arctic Podcast on the gram.
Give us a follow and all that. The links will all be in the episode description. Everything you need will be in there. Of the people who've kind of got on board after AM, I think listening to this stuff will be a real shock to them. As I do often see the people who've kind of got into Do I Want to Know, and it's gone from there, and then they go back and listen to the first album, and it is just wow. And I mean, if the first album wasn't raw enough, we're on the demos here, where it's about as raw as it's possible to get at that stage.
Yeah, but even still identifiable as just kind of banging, cool songs, which is, you know, on AM as well. So, yeah, shall we move on to the next track? Yeah, which is Knock a Door Run.
Watch me go while I'm strutting up ever so slow. Now Stingman, get in the groove, cause they're banging on the door, yes they are, then they'll make a move. We're waking up those sleepers, you know we're so mischievous. Just what you'll do to keep us entertained. We're waking up those sleepers. You know we're so mischievous. Just what you'll do to keep us entertained. She's got you up and she's running away. You're not convinced if you think that you're coming.
So I'll ask you again. Did you have any initial thoughts on this one?
It's much of the same. This is one of the tracks that kind of always sort of passed me by. Not that I didn't like it or anything.
Yep.
But it was just one that I'd never gone back to. Even when going back to listen to Beneath the Boardwalk, it's not a song
Yep.
I'd seek out. But it's filthy, isn't it? It's just absolute filth. I love it.
You know what it is? I completely get that, because this was the one that, even I've been listening to them quite a few times in the past week as we've prepared for this. I just had to listen to it just before we came on again, because I forgot which one it was, which is weird because I listened to it quite a lot. But yeah, it's the one that always passed me by as well. But also, it's one of the ones that I wrote the most notes on, interestingly, to kind of get into it. So that's interesting that it passes me by, but it gave me a lot of food for thought. That's it. I think this obviously is like a heavier riff than Choo Choo, goes without saying. I think it's got that element of the first album style, of that kind of snary, attitude of it, that style, that kind of almost mocking certain aspects of society. There's just something about it. And again, he's doing that kind of talking, almost rapping style of singing here as well. I don't know if you got that from it. It's just this kind of, there's just an attitude with this one that Choo Choo is a bit more of a laugh, obviously.
It is. It's very John Cooper Clarke in that sense. I think that the kind of snary thing, but without punching down, which I think makes a big difference as well.
Yes, it does. You gotta have that balance, haven't you?
Yeah. That's exactly it, and you can see that's exactly what they carry through onto the first album. It's that's very much present for the whole album. This kind of sneering tone. I'd go as far as to say that this is the track where they really kind of found that tone for me. I think there's obviously other tracks on this compilation on the first album that are variations on that theme as well. But this one for me is where you can just, and that's going to be a recurring theme on this show. Actually, is the way the signs were there for certain changes that they've made and stuff like that. We're going to point out how a lot of the signs were there very early on, and it's certainly the case with this track, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I say, it's that one that first made me that, the snaring song style, the rapping, almost singing. The drums I thought were more first album helders on this one as well. I could hear that kind of, that style creeping in. The chorus, again, very White Stripes, I thought, on this one. I could hear that in there. There is a very, so the pre-chorus is very them as well, the way it builds in. And I think the line, one of the lines that starts me was,
if you're going to get on lyrics, then I should probably play the lyrics jingle.
No, I was going to I thought we were going to have a blanket. While you interrupted me with so much excitement to stop me. We're keep this in, but we're go on. I'm gonna reference the lyrics if you want to play it. I'm never going to stop you from playing Alex into my ears. So go
on. I'm really worried that I'm going to be sick of these jingles in about 10 minutes time, but I'm doing it.
Too busy with the mind on clever lines.
Beautiful. But yeah, as it builds in, he says, we're waking up the sleepers, we're so mischievous, which I think is an example. I've always had this, and it'll come up again and again and again, this, and I'm sure anyone listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. But the way that he can rhyme two unexpected words together, not only saying them in his accent, obviously, to make them rhyme, but just two words you wouldn't ever think of doing. So, sleepers and mischievous shouldn't rhyme. Obviously, it should be mischievous, but yeah, because of his accent, it says mischievous. But yeah, sleepers, mischievous. It does rhyme in this odd way that I can't quite understand. But yeah.
There's a John Cooper Clarke track called 36 Hours where he rhymes emeralds with chemicals and then with genitals. It's like emeralds, chemicals, genitals. It's like they kind of they kind of should rhyme, but at the same time, it's like you think, oh, he's just about pulled that out there, and I love that. That's another recurring theme that I think will come up most weeks. I think it's just there's not many. I can't think of a songwriter that's doing that to that extent.
No, and I think as well it comes from obviously. I think rappers do that a lot as well. They're good, obviously, with the old rhymes. So he's got that, and I think as well, it's no shock that his dad's a music teacher and his mom's an English teacher, is it? I mean, you merge those two influences together growing up, and you've got a songwriter basically. So
but maybe it's deliberate.
Yeah, they just wanted it worked.
Genetically engineered the perfect rock god.
she did it just so in 32 years time not 32, sorry, so that in 25 years time she could have the whole of a Glastonbury crowd sing happy birthday to her during a headline set, and it worked. They engineered it and it worked perfectly. Do you know what I did think about this one actually? I don't know if you've ever listened to like early Black Keys, who obviously the Arctic Monkeys are a huge fan of. They opened for the Black Keys on a tour before AM came out to build up their American audience, which is very savvy, I always think. Not a lot of British bands that I'm just going to go off tangent here for a second, but because it's come up, not a lot of British bands that are huge here would have the lack of ego to go and open for a band in America on tour to build an audience. And I think that's why Arctic Monkeys have been successful in the US, is because they took the time to build the audience, whereas other people go over arrogantly and fail and come back because they won't do the smaller venues and support people and things. So yeah, when people say they're arrogant, I think not. That's all I'll say. but yeah, the first 2 or 3 albums of the Black Keys, it's just the two of them doing this kind of bluesy stuff that they recorded in their basement, and the breakdown of this really got me on that. Really got me on that vibe of those. If you've ever heard them, and if you've not, check them out.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I've got a bit of a thing for 2-piece bands. So in that, it's White Stripes, Black Keys, and Blood Red Shoes as well, who are almost kind of an amalgamation of the two that we just mentioned. Yeah. So something about a 2-piece.
Black Keys and White Stripes. Yeah, famously a bit of bad blood between Black Keys and White Stripes, isn't there? But this isn't the Black Keys White Stripes podcast, so we don't get into
podcast.
It. Look it up. the musical feuds podcast. Not a bad idea. Note that down. Also, one of this. This is an all instrumental end, which we know they like their instrumentals. So this was another foray into that. But yeah, no, I think, as you say, it's weird. It passed me by as well. It's not one I always think of, but I just talked about it way longer than I probably will most of the others. So maybe it's a better track than we give it credit for.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, when we were planning this episode, we kind of thought, well, what will we have to say about this stuff? But it just, what we've said already, it just goes to show how important these recordings were in terms of setting the tone. I don't think that can be overstated at all.
Yeah, and also to mention is that when we say that they only started playing their instruments in like 2002, and they recorded this in 2004, and at a gig at the Grapes in between that, they played some of these mixed in with covers, then that implies to me that the unreleased ones, like Knock It Over on Choo Choo that we're discussing, were some of the first songs they wrote together as a band when they were doing covers, and then they just started writing riffs and stuff. So if this selection of songs are the first songs that you write, and then the next set of songs that you write are whatever people say, and that's what I'm not, then you've not done badly, to be fair, as your first collection of, say, 20 songs.
I think in terms of particularly the sound, like kind of forgetting about the lyrics and stuff for a second, but the guitar tones and the sound, it is right in with what was coming out at that time. I know Jamie is the main indie head out of the band, so it is stuff like the Datsuns, the Vines, the Hives, who are popping up in the Arctic Monkey in the Turniverse once again very soon.
Yes,
so
it's
they are right in line, and Black Keys and White Stripes as well, as you mentioned, it's right in line with that kind of garage rock American revival that we were seeing.
Well, yeah, I think, and as we said, we reference how instrumental Jamie is throughout this, and that is one of those influences that he's instrumental in, and also his he was the Queens of the Stone Age fan, he was the Black Sabbath fan, so yeah, he's bringing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, don't slag Jamie off. But yeah, no, I think that's all I've got to say on that track. Have you got anything else to add? Oh, I will just say as well, one thing that I didn't note down when I was walking around today listening to it. walking the dog, not just aimlessly walking around the streets. But I was thinking of it just did remind me of being about 13, 14 and playing Knockador Runner, something like that. That little bit of again mischievous, that feeling. It did really make me think of that, and I always want to think that there's double meaning. I've spent years trying to figure out if there's a double meaning to this song, because it's because they were a bit older than playing Knockador Run, at this point. They were like 17, 18, whatever. So I've always wondered, is there a double meaning? Does it mean something else? But I can't get there. I don't think it does. I think I'm just trying too hard.
Should we just assume it's about shagging? Yeah.
That's what I always go to.
It's just the best thing to do with Arctic Monkeys lyrics. Yeah.
I was thinking it's got to be about shagging, but it's not. What I goes Knockador Run could be a one night stand, loving a girl and leaving her. Knockador Run. That's quite good, actually. Let's go with that. That's my. You could say that was a hot. You could say that was a hot take that I just came up with. What do you think, Nick?
You could do if only we had a jingle for it.
She flicks a red hot revelation off the tip of her tongue.
What a day!
I think you should do that one again, just in case anyone missed it. That's a hot take, and the lyric we used is.
She flicks a red hot revelation off the tip of her tongue.
Excellent. Doesn't get much better than that, because you know what, we didn't just piece together to slice together Alex saying hot and then take. We thought about it.
We could have done. We could have done.
We did, red hot revelation works. It works. And I'm very proud of that one. But yeah, but that is a hot take, actually. I think we'll go with that. Knockador Run is a metaphor for having a one night stand, for loving someone and leaving them. Knockador Run. You knock that door and then you run.
I mean,
now I'm going to go listen to that song tonight and waking up those sleepers. I mean, that sounds a bit rapey, so maybe we won't.
Yeah, stick out that. It's a shame they've done more songs about.
Yeah, scratch that.
Imagine they'd done more songs about one night stands. That would have been great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or just songs about horniness and sex generally. If only they'd done that. Yeah.
Imagine where they'd be.
Oh, well.
Just sang about that. Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Just 5 albums about the moon. It's unbelievable, and they could have had this gold.
I mean, the moon can't be that good. No one's been back.
Well, no, that's true. But yeah, anyway, we're on a tangent. Shall we move on to the next one, which, again, one that I would say I overlook sometimes a lot as well. On the Run from the MI5.
Again, we're probably covering the two songs in a row that kind of passed me by the most. But I do like the fact it's the first song I've ever heard to reference Gibraltar, and the second was Gibraltar 8 by Cabbage. So any song that's referencing Gibraltar and giving them something to cling on to, the poor sods, is fine in my book. There's also a mention of,
if you'd like to reference
Switch card as well, which you don't hear anymore. You know, the debit card, it used to be called Switch, didn't it?
Yeah. But no, I don't even remember that. So I didn't even know what he was referencing, but yeah. Wow. If you'd like to send us in your favourite songs that reference Gibraltar, the socials are. But yeah, no, I think, again, no, although, you know what, unlike Knockador Run, this is one that passes me by, and it's one that I've not got loads to say on, unfortunately, but still a solid little track for you to have as a band. That sounds really condescending, retract that, but just a solid, considering what they went on to do, I can say that. Solid little track. Classic Helders Counting, which is always nice to hear. We've got plenty of them over the years. This is probably one of the peak White Stripes influences I could hear actually in this one. I'd say this was very, very White Stripes. Not my favourite, but would be great live. actually. I would love to hear this one live. I think it's a really good live tune. And again, just when you think how long they'd been playing instruments for and have been a band together to wrap this kind of song up, yeah, and smash that out live. Wow. You know, if you go and see them at some unsigned night and they crack out this is a tune, you're going to be pretty into it. So yeah, not got much to say on that one, but I think that's a pretty solid. And actually, On the Run from the MI5 is a metaphor for having a one-night stand. Actually, so basically, he's on the run from the girl that he slept with, and he has to dodge her calls and stuff. Yeah, so not a lot of people know that.
I also noticed the Americanism as well, MI5 as well. You know, they really turned to shit when they started going on about American things.
Yeah, I know. You could say it's
putting a Dr. Pepper on the slate.
Perhaps it's a metaphor for. Yeah, no, yeah. Thank God they stopped. You know, you could say it was just some. I can't get the. I was going to get the lyrics referencing the Ultra Cheese to. I think he says American Landscape or something like that. I was going to reference that, but I can't pull the lyric out of the air, unfortunately. But I know he does reference it. But yeah, no, solid live track, I reckon. Good riff, good there, but you know, there's not much there, I'd say. But still, would listen to it over most other band songs any day. So moving on, because we did overlook that one, and you could say that we overlooked that one. It passed us by like a train or a bus, you could say, which brings us nicely on to Waving By to the Train or the Bus.
Oh, baby, I'm wanting to do you a swap. Well, I'll give you anything, yeah, in return for the noises you've got. And I can see you want to be attended to. Just count to 29 and I'll attend to you, oh, for sure. Well, certainly, yeah. Waving by to the train or the bus, I'm ever so worried because I don't want to get all forgotten.
Favorite track of this collection of songs is this one. I think it's very early version of the guitar, a lot of the guitar work that they'll do in the future. The change to clean, almost ska guitar on the chorus. The change to clean, almost ska guitar on the chorus. They do that sometimes, you know, throughout. And then just back in with that riff. It's got the drum stops that we're used to, the pauses. So the lyrics, they're a bit more like Alex that we'll learn to love as it goes on. It's got these, it's got these the drum stops that are referenced then. Those kind of pauses that they do, which I always appreciate. That it's so hard to do. The timing has to be impeccable to do that at live and in a studio. But it's something that they still do now, even in the latest single, Mirrorball. You know, there's this kind of pause and then the drums come in. And it's just all great. The breakdown is just very them as well. Yeah, I just think this is just a great track. We're seeing a lot of them in this one. What will be, I'd say.
This is when we talked about Choo Choo at the top of the show, and I mentioned that there was 2 songs from this album. This was the other one that even after Humbug, I'd still be like, yeah, Waving By to the Train on a Bus is my favourite. Do you remember when you were a teenager and you'd spend your evenings after school on MSN Messenger? And did you ever do what I did? I really hope you did what I did. Otherwise, this is going to be an embarrassing revelation. But did if you were talking to a girl you fancied, did you ever change you could like put like a quote on your screen name, couldn't you? You could put a quote or lyrics. And I would often, I'd often have.
I know what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be.
I can see you want to be offended. Go on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go for. Although I believe you just said a lyric, so, you know, I don't want to tell you when to jingle, but.
I can't use the jingle again. Oh, my word. Oh, God. Sod it, I'm doing it.
Too busy with the mind on clever lines.
Oh, God.
But yeah,
so
I
it
can
was.
see
I can see you want to be attended to. Just count to 29. I'll attend to you. Little little 16-year-old Nick with his tiny penis, thinking this'll get him. This'll get him.
Yeah, and hopefully you're not 35-year-old Nick with a tiny penis still on MSN talking to 14-year-old girls with that as your title.
No.
Hopefully we've moved on from that. No.
Not since the court order.
Everything else has changed. The penis is the same. But yeah, that is my that lyric is such a, again, very bluesy. I think actually I get a bluesy vibe from that lyric. But yeah, just a cool wordplay. I don't really know, it doesn't mean anything, does it really? Unless 29 has some meaning that I don't. But again, I'd say that line is very horny, which is obviously, as we know, he likes to be. But yeah, I think I'd say, you know what? Actually, sorry, I said before that the breakdown was very them. What I meant to say was the only thing in this song is that I think the breakdown is not very them. Sorry, I meant to say, and the "be together again" bit is also not very them. It's very unlike them to do this kind of "be together again." Maybe it's just too positive. Everybody will be together again the way it ends, and not cynical enough. I'm used to a bit more cynical in the. Oh, you're getting cynical, and that won't do. There we go.
Right today.
I'll be honest. When I wrote that note, I knew I was going to do that already. I wrote that note to do that. Because that's my favorite. Well, we'll save it for that one. But yeah, it's just because it has a positive reflection, which is unfair because a lot of the songs are cynical, but they do kind of have a positive reflection as well. So I'm being a bit unfair, but it just didn't sound like them. It sounded a little bit different to them, I'd say.
Yeah.
But do you know what some of the guitar on this reminded me of a little bit as well? To reference a future song that we will cover eventually. No Buses. I don't know why it reminds me of that kind of vibe of No Buses a little bit. Some of this song, I think it's the clean guitar when it slows down and stuff. But yeah, absolute highlight of this demo, I'd say.
Really, really is. Particularly enjoy the lyric, which is you could see this lyric written down and you'd assume it was Alex Turner. I think when you've karate kicked your way to someone new and have a memory and don't know what to do, it's just peak Alex, right? Peak horny Alex.
Yeah, that is a very good lyric. You didn't use the jingle. Probably best not. But using that. Chance would be a fine thing.
Yeah.
Probably saying that too much now. As we get references up. But yeah. But I think, and also very well put together song as well. Very well produced as well. So well done to Alan Spive. Yeah, very, very well put together track. But yeah, no, I love this song. I think it's great. Like you say, a lot of it is Alex getting there with his lyrics, and would happily listen to this one. If surprised this one wasn't a B-side, actually, to be honest, when they did produce them, must have not felt right. I bet it's that bit that I've said actually probably didn't feel right. Yeah. But, do you have any other thoughts on the Waving Bison train?
If I ended up in some sort of Shaun of the Dead scenario, where I had to throw my records at the oncoming horde of zombies, and someone else was in charge of which records to throw. So say each record is an Arctic Monkeys song, and if this was the only one I got left with after the zombie apocalypse, I'd be quite fine.
Yep.
I'd be quite fine for this to be the only Arctic Monkeys song I ever have to hear again. I mean, I wouldn't be happy to be missing out on everything else, but I'd be quite excited.
No, I'd agree with that. I wouldn't be chagrined by it. Can you use that as a verb? Does that work as a verb? Yeah.
You just have, mate.
Yeah, I have, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Edit it out.
Wait. And there's nothing you can do about it. Invoice me for the microphone. There you go. Just quoting him now, not even lyrics. But yeah, no. I'm happy to move on from this one, but I just think, absolutely 5 stars all around. That's my review.
It's your review. It's your review, is it?
Very lovely stuff.
Oh god.
But yeah, no. Let's move on to the next one, which again, this one I think invokes when I said that Knockadoor Run invoked that kind of young feeling of being young, despite what we ascertained the metaphor could be. It invoked being young and Knockadoor Run and being a kid. And this song also does that, and it's, for me, the title at least, Space Invaders.
Space invaders flying home, and they're gonna hit the sack, and they're probably gonna die getting high, cause they're crazy wonders with the crack. Yeah, she's kissing all the boys. She's too clever to be slack. But she's bound to go away for a day, and she like her, so she won't be coming back. Baby, your good old days are done. And now I want you to dry your pretty eyes. Your good old days are done, so come on.
I think this is another really solid bluesy track. I mean, it's funny going back how much of the blues influence there is, because you could say that we're just entering a very bluesy phase of Arctic Monkeys now. And I did hear in an interview, actually, just because this is relevant, but I did hear Alex has said for Tranquility Base, and I think for this album, it reminds him a lot of the stuff he used to hear his dad listen to. He was big into blues, and he used to listen to his dad hearing records of blues tracks a lot, and that's what Tranquility Base reminded him of when he listened to it. And I think a lot of that blues stuff is coming through here as well, actually, which is pretty cool. I think it's got a very cool singing style. I think this is the first time actually, if you want to, for people who did jump on board for AM, if you listen to this track, Helder's Baby, Baby, Baby is very reminiscent of the AM era backing vocals, I would say. Still not, there completely, but I think you can hear that in there. I think this song is still not there completely, but you can see how. I think you can see from the solo, actually, in the breakdown of this, that their style became what we hear on Whatever People Say I Am. That's what I'm not. I think this one, again, has strong elements of what we will see in the future.
That's what I'm finding so striking about discussing this album is some of this. I think they're all very good songs. They're all better than what a lot of bands at the time were bringing out. But you're sort of seeing from all, like, each song seems to have some sort of element that they took with them after. So kind of looking at them as a collective, you can kind of see why the sound progressed the way it did. It's just all there, like kind of in isolation, and then we're bringing it all together, and it's just amazing looking at it in hindsight, like nearly 20 years on. To be kind of going through it and looking, and you're just seeing how it all connects. We're joining the dots, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is one of the ones where that's most evident in places. I really was surprised, actually, listening to it again, how much that Helder's backing vocal sounded like Helder's, because I know he does that kind of thing as well in like in A Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor and stuff like that. But this one just really reminded me of that kind of knee socksy track. But do you think, I don't know if this is how this song got its title, but it's a weird one where when I hear it, when I hear the opening riff of the song, it does sound like the game Space Invaders. That might sound really weird, but it does sound like that game, as it really puts an image of that. And I don't know if they heard that and that's why they called it that, but I really hear that in it.
You close your eyes and you can almost see it kind of in front of your eyes. Like, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing the things you kind of pick up on. You wouldn't think that these songs would kind of stand up to much analysis, because obviously we've planned where the show is going to go and everything, and we know we're eventually going to get to the Tranquility Base era onwards, where it's going to be really tricky to do, like, keep it to just an hour talking about some of the songs on Tranquility Base. So it's kind of amazing to me that we're still managing to pick things out and pick different interpretations for what is, with no disrespect intended, a pretty basic set of songs. Four lads who are just learning their instruments, first songs they wrote, they are quite basic, but still there is a lot that's open to interpretation even that early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, lyrically, this one, it actually is a metaphor for getting high or doing drugs as well. So this is one of the first times where there is that, assuming that we're not right about Knock a Door Run. This is one of the first times, I think, Space Invaders flying home and they're going to hit the sack and they're probably going to die getting high because they're mixing Crazy Moments with the crack, which, by the way, when you say it like that, is a really cool rap, basically, isn't it? And it's, even I managed to make it sound half decent. And it was, I think I can only, it's about doing drugs and, having to, I don't know, make your way home on drugs or something like that. I can only assume this is just off the cuff, but the Space Invaders element, because in the game Space Invaders, you obviously have to shoot and chip away at the oncoming. Yeah, I was trying to kind of again put a metaphor together for that, for drugs, but I couldn't really. It might just be simply about getting high and playing video games. I don't know. So yeah, I don't. But this, I think that's a good example of his lyrics there. He says because they're getting high because they're mixing crazy moments with the crack. Is one of the first really clever lyrics I think in this. Yeah. But yeah, solid track. And
the chorus, the baby, baby, baby in the chorus is kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just saying about the end of Waving Bye to the Train or the Bus with the Be Together Again refrain at the end. Is kind of not really. Again, it's kind of quite poppy. Again, I think it's almost like like Please Please Me era Beatles kind of poppy to me, which we don't.
Yeah.
We kind of departed from that quite quickly, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But again, you know, these are when you write in your first set of songs, all these different influences are there, and some stay around more prominently, and some don't they? So, yeah, like the White Stripes influence is pretty much, I'd say, gone after this set of demos, isn't it? And there's not many more that I'd say I could hear that in there. I mean, obviously, it will still be in there. It's always still in there. But yeah, I mean, but again, you know, them and the Black Keys, again, when you think about his dad listening to blues and stuff, them and the Black Keys were bluesy, kind of rock blues, weren't they? So it all makes sense. It's all, and I think, yeah, you're quite right. This does inform a lot of what's to come, and even inform in the new era now, talking about all this stuff of his dad and the blues influence and stuff like that. It's crazy. But yeah, I think that's a really solid track. One of the ones up there for me on the album. So shall we move on to the next one, which again is one of my favorites, but I don't have a lot to say about it. I just enjoy it, I'd say, superficially. It's a track called Curtains Closed.
I saw one in long, but she cut it short, and now I'm catching the cold. I'm talking up and no crack in the doobie, but it was already rolled. Oh, I turned out my lights and my curtains weren't closed. I turned out my lights and my curtains weren't closed. Oh, well, I turned out my lights and my curtains weren't closed last night. Oh, baby, I almost been mad.
What do you think of this one, Nick?
Yeah, it's another one. I think the kind of punk influence kind of shines through here a bit more as well for me. Yeah, again, it's another one. It's another one that kind of passes me by more than the obvious tracks. There's a fair bit of repetition, but you do have some great lyrics. Again, I'm a mad motherfucker with my curtains open, sitting tucked up in a bed. I told you not, but no crack in the doobie, but it was already rolled. I'm just loving these little obvious drug references that they kind of like stepped away from and made it a bit more abstract.
yeah. It's very as we, you know, as I can attest to, very teenage, growing up on a council estate, isn't it? Lyrics that he's getting in there, yeah, they're kind of very teenage drug, getting high, you know, nothing hard stuff, just a bit of weed. But yeah, no, I think this was the first one where he's singing with this slight edge to his voice, that kind of, again, that snariness that we mentioned earlier, but this kind of, that sort of edge to his voice, I could hear what he develops into coming through on this one. But I did also think his voice is very Julian Casablancas in this one. Actually, I thought that was, considering how much I thought we were going to hear a lot of Strokes throughout this demo, and we haven't. We've heard a lot of White Stripes and stuff, which is interesting. But this was the first time I thought, oh, that sounds like Julian Casablancas to me singing this one. This sounds like a Strokesy tune.
This is definitely the one track out of all of them where that really does shine through in his voice.
Yeah,
for the first time. And I'm the same as you. I'm surprised that we've not mentioned that earlier, but it doesn't come through as much as it does in this.
Maybe we will on whatever people say I'm more, but I think it's this is definitely one of the first ones where you do it. But as we know, he just wanted to be one of the Strokes. And now look at the mess he's made us make with this, with jingles and stuff. But no, I did think the slow chorus in this was very Arctic Monkeys to do a fast sort of ish verse and then slip into a slow chorus, which is not normally the way around. But Arctic Monkeys do it quite a lot, actually. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if you noticed it.
it's kind of the start of a long line of them subverting expectations, whether it be
very nice.
totally changing the sound up between albums, rhyming weird words together, just all these things. And that was very much just, I think Are You Mine was the best example of that. I'm a puppet on a string, Tracy Island. Like in the next line, you kind of subverting the way the rhyme would normally go and stuff like that. And this is definitely one of the earliest signs of them early on. Not being pigeonholed. Everybody's got the box doing what they're told, but Arctic Monkeys will not be pigeonholed.
We're slipping them in like constantly now, aren't we? Like we just slipped in 3, I think, in 5 minutes, and we're not even referencing it anymore. It's just a little treat for the audience there to get that. But yeah, I think maybe I will go through when the video, and if we ever release the full videos to these, and just put a little marker on the screen to say when we say a lyric. But yeah, I think if we had a jingle, it would interrupt too much. But no, yeah, solid song, one of my favorites. Like you say, lyrically funny little drug references getting in there, and first sign of the Strokes. I have prepared a little treat for the audience, actually, the listening audience, and you, of course. Won't leave you out. They did a performance of this song live. I don't know if it was the famous Grapes gig or one of many other gigs that they did. It probably was. And they did a cover of Rockefeller Skank. This is Rockefeller Skank, isn't it? Yeah, by Fatboy Slim. But much like the Arctic Monkeys subverting expectations again, instead of just playing this song and then playing Fatboy Slim, they recognised that there was a slight similarity perhaps in the tempo and the riff. So, well, check it out. Listen to this.
I turned down my lights and my curtains were closed. When I turned down my lights, my curtains weren't closed last night. Oh, baby, I'm a feeling. Check it out now, the funk soul brother right about now. The funk soul brother, check it out now. The funk soul brother right about now. The funk soul brother, check it out now. The funk soul brother right about now. The funk soul brother, check it out now. The funk soul brother right about now. The funk soul brother, grow.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that they did that. That when I first heard that, I remember in the early days, I thought, wow, that's really cool to do that live, to just slip in another band song. And, again, no ego, just slipping in, almost going, this sounds like this. In the same way that they acknowledge that Arabella chorus sounds like War Pigs by Sabbath, or that they'll do like a Glastonbury, he'll go into Yellow and stuff, and Bowie and stuff like that. And then, like, you'll go, get a hold of yourself, Alex, or whatever. Like, yeah, just like a little acknowledgement there, and they're not ashamed to say this is our influences, and we're not going to be embarrassed by it.
And on that, it's the same with various live versions of Fluorescent Adolescent. There have been obviously Only You Know by Dion was one of them that's kind of resurfaced this week with him singing it at Zach Dawes' wedding.
Yes, one of my favourite songs.
Absolute belter. Thanks, Alex, for getting us into that. Love you, man. But they also did Fluorescent Adolescent was when they did Helders singing Last Christmas by Wham, was also during the breakdown in Fluorescent Adolescent. So they're not shy about just peppering their material with loads of other songs.
Yeah, well, I think when you hear, if anybody actually after that, I'm hoping people will go and listen to that song or that album after hearing Alex doing that at the wedding. That Only You Know, I think when you listen to that song, you do hear a lot of Fluorescent Adolescent in that, so it makes sense to use it for the breakdown, and a lot of Arctic Monkeys in that. And there's one of my favourite lyrics in that, which I think is a very Alex lyric, which is, only you know what you've been through. There's better things you're going to go through, and I want to be there too. Very Alex lyric, that kind of lyric. And of course, they also have a song on that album called Only Ones Who Know. So, I think that song is obviously big in his heart, I'd say. But go check out that Dion album, everyone. It's my recommendation. That's my hot take of an album for the week. I'm really stretching that to try and get you to play the jingle.
yeah. That's not worthy of a jingle.
No, it's not Jane, that is it. I tried, everyone. But yeah, no, just to wrap up, because we are getting a little bit over on this one. I didn't think we'd talk for this long about this one, but just shows the quality of the songs, I guess. This one doesn't need much. I don't even think it's worth much of a discussion, but there is a live track on there, very brief. It's only like a minute and a half long of a performance of a song called Ravey, Ravey, Ravey.
And she's been thinking of fucking off and not going home today. And she's been eating too much magic beans to walk home anyway. You got room and going out to the dirty ground. Put up your picture in the place and where we'll get around. Yeah, where we'll get around, yeah. Yeah, where we'll get around. Everyone's feeling alright. I won't be sleeping today. I won't be sleeping tonight.
The really one why this is interesting is for a long time I assumed this was a different singer. It wasn't Alex, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when they very, very early days of them being together, they had a singer because Alex was too shy to sing. And then obviously things worked out better. This sounds live. The music's obviously recorded live. It doesn't sound like Alex, but I do think in a lot of moments, though, it does sound like Alex, which leads me to believe that it actually is him singing, because you can hear that. But I think this is an example of the shyness that he must have had at first, because he obviously couldn't bear the thought of singing in his own voice. So he puts on this, which is ironic because of what happens eventually, but he's putting on this very American accent that not like even crazy doesn't sound like him when he's singing this. So yeah, I think you can tell it's early them, and it might be even one of the first things they ever wrote. The first thing they ever wrote. But yeah, it's nothing like them, is it? It's mad. It's like them and it's not like them all at the same time.
Yeah. Another, we've touched on so many recurring themes, like, because they are one of those bands that you'll hear something by them that you've not heard before, and it won't sound like them, but at the same time, it clearly does sound like them. It's this sort of like weird middle ground where they're just instantly recognizable. But yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the first song they wrote. It would not surprise me in the slightest. It's fine. It's fairly basic. No messing about. Couple of minutes. I've got nothing against songs that are less than 2 minutes, though. I mean, Hotel Yorba by the White Stripes, them again, is one of my favourite songs, and that's like 1 minute 58 or something like that. So no problem with that. But yeah, very, very, very basic.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is. But if anyone hasn't heard it, so you go check it out, because it's a very interesting listen. But especially anyone that hasn't heard a lot of the early stuff, you'll be absolutely shocked by this. But yeah, it's just early days, young band, learning the craft. Yeah, it's crazy. And there's not a lot of bands where you get access to stuff like this, but because of that file share at the time, we do, which is great. But I wrote in my notes here, I won't be sleeping today, in quotation marks. And I don't know if that's a lyric or something. I don't know what that's in reference to. For some reason, when I listened to the song, I wrote down, I won't be sleeping today. So yeah, I don't know what was going on at that point.
Well, everyone's feeling all right. I won't be sleeping today. No, I won't be sleeping tonight. Is the lyric? Yeah.
I think I quite like that. That was it. Yes, it was. Yeah, of course it was. It's only 1 minute 30, and I can't remember all the bloody lyrics. But I like that lyric, considering this is potentially the first song they ever wrote. I like that lyric. But yeah, no, I've had very, very much enjoyed covering these tracks, and I think we've discussed and talked about more than we thought we would, and hopefully there's some insights in there. And I think it's been really cool to get to the roots and the beginnings and just hear that in there. And if nothing else, you did find out that Knockado Run is about a one-night stand. So, yeah. If
people have learned nothing else, then they've picked up one of our speculative hot takes. And I'm not doing a jingle for that. The jingle can stay in. It can stay in the jingle drawer. So that has been our deep dive into the Beneath the Boardwalk demos. Don't forget, you can go onto your podcast player of choice, because we were initially just going to be on Spotify, but no, it's a big world out there, and we want to conquer it all, or at least like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Them two will do. So don't forget to follow us.
That is the world, basically.
That is all you need, isn't it? So we really
unless we get a deal with Disney Plus.
Yeah, any day now. Any other idiot can get one. So don't forget to subscribe on your podcast player of choice. Give us a review, which would be really nice. And don't forget to follow us on the social media. That will be in
a review
episode description. Yeah, people can review us. That's nice, isn't it? If they're going to say something nice,
I was just. You said review, and I just thought we might have a jingle for that, but you carry on.
I will crack on. So yes, we will be back at the same time next week. Make sure you subscribe on all good podcast players and some rubbish ones as well, because then the episode you'll get a notification when the new episode comes out, which is good, isn't it?
Yes, and we will. So just to tease you, we will be covering the beginning of the Whatever People Say I Am. That's What I'm Not era with The View from the Afternoon, which I'm very excited about. That will be what we're covering next week. And just to tease them, we do have a special. Oh no, we can't use it next week, can we? But for future reference, we do have a special round that we have a very special jingle for.
Yeah.
That we'll be utilizing throughout this podcast as we go on certain tracks only, and that will become apparent to you if you keep listening. But just tease them with that jingle and let them wonder what this segment could be.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've not had your fill of needless jingles tonight, ladies and gents, then I tell you what, you are in for a treat in a couple of weeks. I tell you. But yes, it will only be on certain
Needles
songs.
to say.
I took drugs. Oh, God. I hope people. If anyone's like getting all the references, it's one thing getting the Arctic Monkeys references, but if you're getting the various Peep Show, Partridge, and Office references, then get in touch and.
Yeah, please let us know.
A prize. There'll be no prize, but we will email you back and pass on our implied congratulations. Dan, do you have anything to say to the people before we go?
I do not. I want to say thank you very much for listening. I hope you found this as interesting a listen as I did. And if you haven't listened to these tracks or heard this before, then they are all available on YouTube to hear. They're not available on any Spotify platform, so please go and listen to them and then maybe re-listen to this once you've heard them. Or even throughout this pause. Well, we're going to be playing clips in them anyway, aren't we? But it's, if you want to listen to the full track, go to YouTube. And then are you going to tease them with that jingle? I've not forgotten.
Which jingle?
This very special round.
No, I'm not. No, we'll keep that.
Okay. All right. Well, cut that out then. All right.
I'll keep that.
Save that for the dance floor episode. That'll be
we'll be breaking out then. I'll keep that.
Yeah,
that's just between me and my dog.
And that's between me and my internet service provider, to quote Glenn. And I think of it reference for anyone there. But yeah, I will. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it as enjoyable as we have, and we will see you next week for The View from the Afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Don't Believe the Hype is hosted and produced weekly by Nick Lee and Dan Holt. The music used in the titles is royalty-free music courtesy of Les FM. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast player of choice to be notified every Wednesday when a new episode is released. And if you want to help us out further, be sure to like and review to help make us more visible to like-minded souls. We will see you next week with more of the same.